Hi, sixth graders. This is Mr. Shear, and today you're adding and subtracting fractions. If you haven't looked yet, you have an ALEKS assignment today. It's called Homework 15 in ALEKS, and it is 12 questions on adding and subtracting fractions. And I'm just going to jump right in. So, just a quick preface. Of all the four major operations in math, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, I think adding and subtracting fractions is the hardest, which is unusual because usually adding and subtracting is easy. But in the case of fractions, adding and subtracting fractions is the hardest thing. But if you know one thing, if there's one thing you know and remember from today, it's that in order to add or subtract a fraction, the denominators must be the same. The bottom numbers have to be the same in order for you to add or subtract a fraction. And the reason we're doing adding and subtracting together is because it's the exact same steps, except when it's time to add, you add. If it's an adding question, if it's a subtracting question, you subtract when it's time to subtract. All right, so take a look at your screen. If the denominators are the same and you're adding a fraction, it's super easy. You just add the tops. The denominator never changes. Once it's the same, you never add the bottom numbers or subtract the bottom numbers. You just add the tops. So 3 11ths plus 6 11ths, 9 11ths. Okay, take a look at the screen. 5 tenths plus 4 tenths. Again, just add the top. 9 tenths. Okay, so that's pretty basic. That's pretty easy. I want to remind you before we do the harder questions that you always have to reduce or simplify where you can. So here's another question. In the ALEKS assignment, it'll say in simplest form. That means you can reduce it. But 7 twelfths plus 1 12th. So you add it and you have 8 twelfths. And that does reduce. So to remind you, to reduce a fraction, you have to find the lowest or the greatest common factor, the biggest number that goes into both the top and the bottom of the fraction. In this case, it's 4. So all we did so far was we added the tops, we got 8 twelfths, and then I know it reduces by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. Your final answer is 2/3. Okay, we'll try another one. 1/9 plus 2/9. Add the tops. Hopefully you get 3/9. Find the greatest common factor of 3 and 9. So what number goes into 3? That also goes into 9 evenly. Hopefully you're saying 3, because 3 divided by 3 is 1 and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So this is a reduced, simplified answer. If a question asks you to simplify and you do not, you will get it wrong. So you want to make sure you know how to reduce. We've practiced that already once this year. Okay, there's a couple questions in ALEKS that look like the one below. Find the least common denominator of 7/8 and 11/6. On this question, they're not asking you to solve it. They're just trying to get you to think about the least common denominator. And what they mean is the smallest number, we're talking about multiples now, that 8 and 6 both go into. When you add and subtract fractions, which we'll do in a sec, you have to make the bottoms the same, and the first step is to find the common denominator that both 8 and 6 will go into. So you're looking for the smallest multiple of 8 and 6. So if I count by 8s and I count by 6, the first number they both meet up at is 24. So for this question, the answer is 24. The least common denominator of 7/8 and 11/6 is 24. It's the smallest number 8 and 6 both go into. and that's called the LCD, least common denominator. Try one more. What is the LCD of 11/12 and 1/2? So you're looking for the smallest multiple of 12 and 2. Hopefully you said 12. If you count by 12s and you count by 2, they'll both meet up at 12. And so the answer would be 12. Now the reason you have to know how to do the LCD is so that you can add and subtract fractions that have different denominators. So let's do a couple. So again, 11/12 plus 5/9, and again, you cannot add or subtract fractions until the denominators are the same. The bottom numbers have to be the same. So the first step is to find the smallest multiple of 12 and 9. What number does 12 go into that 9 will also go into? This is called the LCD, least common denominator. And the smallest number that 12 goes into that 9 also goes into is 36. So keep that in mind. Okay, the LCD is 36. And this, every math teacher says it the same. What I want you to do is we're just looking at 11/12. I need to make that 12 into a 36. So I'm going to say 12 times 3 is 36. And every math teacher says this. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. That's this type of problem. It's adding, subtracting fractions. 11 times 3 is 33. This whole fraction, 11/12, I've changed into 33/36 by timesing both the top and the bottom by 3. I'm going to do the same thing on 5/9. I'm going to change the bottom into 36. And I'm going to do that by multiplying it by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. Whatever I do the bottom, I have to do the top. 4 times 5 is 20. And now I have 33/36 and 20/36. All I've done, just to recap, is I figured out that the smallest multiple of 12 and 9 is 36. So I've times both the 11 and the 12 by 3. Gives me 33/36. And I've times both the 5 and the 9 by 4. All right, now I got 30/36 and 20/36. And I can just add them. Gives me 53/36. Now, unfortunately, again, I told you these are the hardest questions in fractions, is adding, subtracting, because they have so many steps sometimes. Once you get it, it's not too bad. But this is an improper fraction. Top is bigger than the bottom, so we have to practice what we did yesterday. And you got to convert an improper to mixed. 36 goes into 53 once, remainder 17. In this case, the answer is 1 and 17/36. All I did was take the 36. I said it goes into 53 once, 17/36 remaining. We're going to try another one, a little simpler this time. 3/4 minus 7/10. Again, I cannot subtract a fraction until the bottom numbers are the same, so I have to think, what number do both 4 and 10 go into? So I'm looking for the smallest multiple of 4 and 10. If I count by 4s and I count by 10s, and hopefully you understand that it's 20. 4 goes into 20, 10 goes into 20. So I want you to think about, what number would you multiply 4 by to change it into a 20? Hopefully you say 5. So you multiply 4 by 5 to get 20. Whatever you do the bottom, you do the top. And 3/4 becomes 15/20. Now, what number are you going to multiply 10 by to get 20? Hopefully you say 2. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 7 is 14. So now you have 15/20 minus 14/20. 15/20 minus 14/20, and you just subtract the tops. Final answer, 1/20, nothing to reduce. That answer is done. Last example in the video today, coming up. Okay, we got 11/12 minus 7/8. Again, First things first, you have to find the lowest common multiple, the smallest number both 12 and 8 will go into. So you want the smallest number that both 12 and 8 will go into. And hopefully, you're saying 24. If you count by 12s, count by 8, they both go into 24. Okay, so we know we're going to change both the denominators in the 24. So I want you to think about what number do you have to times 12 by to get 24? And you're going to do that you're going to multiply 12 by something to get 24. And whatever number you multiply 12 by, you got to multiply 11 by. So in this case, it's 2. 12 times 2 is 24, so 11 times 2 is 22. Now, same thing with 7 eighths. You need to change that 8 into a 24. 8 times what is 24? 3. 8 times 3 is 24, so 7 times 3 is 21. What you end up with is 22 over 24 minus 21 over 24. So 22 over 24 minus 21 over 24, and hopefully you can see that that would be 1/24. All right, guys, that is your assignment for today. Again, it's called Homework 15 in ALEKS. It's 12 questions. As always, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Email with questions, and I'll see you at the meet.